All right. I have the McCourty twins here. Devin, who's a loyal Patriot, who's drafted by the team, has stayed there forever. 3-time champ. And then Jason, who passed through our vortex and then left us for our biggest rival, one of our biggest rivals, the Miami Dolphins. But we're still talking to him. He's a 1-time champ. You guys won a championship together, Super Bowl, the Rams. All right. We're doing a speed round. I want to get as many questions as I possibly can. So we'll start here. You guys went head-to-head on Sunday. Miami sneaks it out. Jason, your team ended up winning. What is the taunting rules with your brother after the game? What happens? Do you give him shit immediately? Do you wait 6 hours? Like, you guys have been competing your whole lives. What do you do?
It was immediately the last drive where our offense was on the field. And once we got the first down and started taking knees, I was from the sideline yelling his name, started talking trash before the game even hit zeros on the clock.
What were you saying, Devin?
I ignored him. I didn't hear him. After the game, Jalen Mills told me, Jay Mills, like, yo, your brother was screaming your name on the sideline. I was still blocking out the noise.
So was there a bet? Do you guys have little wagers on this? Dinners? What happens? What are your legal wagers on this?
Just a lot of trash talk. Dev's been talking. We worked out together all summer. He's been talking trash to me all summer. So it was just a ton of trash talking, bragging rights. So I have the bragging rights for now, but they're going to get another crack at it at the end of the season. So we'll see how it goes.
Devin, has the trash talking ever gone too far? Have you guys ever had to be separated? What was the worst trash talking competitive thing you guys got into?
Not from trash talking, but back in like 2011, we were working out together at Rutgers, and we exchanged some words. And all our former teammates had to get in between us to calm us both down. We get pretty competitive training together and going after it.
What do you? So you obviously brothers. What is there weird stuff you compete in, like Scrabble, checkers, any sort of dumb games, video games? What else do you guys do?
Growing up, it was video games and one-on-one basketball games. We would play video games, and my mom would be in the other room yelling at us to cut it off. And then we'd go outside and we just play against each other, no score being kept, and we would just go at it. And those games would usually end in a fight, and our mom making us come in the house too. So those two things growing up for us, that brought out the best and the worst in us.
Wait, who's better at basketball? Gun to your head. Who both of you said I am. What are your games similar, or do you have different games? Because usually with twin brothers, they end up doing different roles in basketball for some reason.
Yeah, I would say we both play off each other. He's more of a point guard. I'm more of an off guard. I usually would guard the better ball handler, and he would be off the ball on defense. So we definitely played off each other.
Are you allowed to play basketball anymore? And by the football contract, you're not allowed, or you can sneak it out?
No, we can still play. I played for a while up until probably the last few years. As I've gotten older, it's not as easy in the offseason to get out there and hoop. So I've had to lay the shoes to rest.
Yeah, just wait till you hit your early 40s. Everything goes all at once. All right, more speed round. Jason, make me feel good about Mac Jones, my new hero.
Man, he didn't make any mistakes in the game. He was poised. Even between plays, he's yelling at the offense to get it going. Just a guy that seemed in total control of the offense, making checks at the line of scrimmage. Even when we watched him on film in the preseason, it was like, this guy's a rookie, but he's playing like a veteran out there. So we kind of knew, like, all right, we're going to have to bring our best game to be able to defeat him.
Devin, when did you know you had one with Mac?
I think when he came in, just to see how he kind of went about everything, obviously, I tell people all the time, transitioning from college to NFL quarterback, it's hard to know what any of these guys can do. But I would say Mac's kind of attitude and his approach to the game, I think made a lot of the veterans really like him and love what he was doing. Gets mad at himself. He's hard on himself a lot. And I think I know I said to him one time, like, man, you're a rookie. You're going to make some mistakes. Just keep going. And I think guys saw right away, what he wanted to do and the control that he had when he was out on the field, the poise. So it's been fun so far just watching his growth from training camp all the way to week 1.
Is it important for a rookie QB? Jason, you can answer this. The rookie QB's got to come in. He's got to win over the lineman. He has to be like one of the guys. What else does that person have to do in that situation, especially if he's a first-round pick?
Perform. I think at the end of the day, our league is a performance-based league, and we have friends and guys we've played with for a long time. When somebody comes in that locker room, you go out on that field and they perform, there's nothing guys respect more than a guy that can go out there and play ball. So I think whether you're a rookie quarterback, a rookie receiver, corner, whatever it is, if you get out there and you can play some football, guys are going to respect you and love you.
Well, I was impressed. I thought the second half, especially because the Dolphins defense was really good in that game, and he kind of managed the speed of it, which was unusual for a rookie. All right, this is for both of you. Jason, you can take it first. Bill Belichick, funnier than people realize, less funny than people realize, or exactly as funny as we think?
Funnier than people realize, for sure.
A lot funnier than people realize. It's funny how often it happens. A guy comes in, call it within the first week, like Matt Judon sits by me and Hightower in a meeting. Judon's laughing nonstop in the meetings, and kind of looks at us like, "Why are you not laughing?" I'm like, "We just been here for a while." Guys, they just do not expect some of the things that comes out of Bill's mouth. It's pretty funny.
It seems like he has the biggest misperception between like his press conferences, which is what America judges him by, right? He's as boring as possible in those press conferences versus what everybody says behind the scenes. So Jason, you must have been stunned when you came to the Patriots. You must have, or did your brother like condition you?
I had a 9 years of listening to Dev talk about it. So I walking into that building, I knew a lot of kind of what goes on, who's what. So I learned a lot from Dev leading up to joining the team.
And you'd played for a few head coaches at that point.
Yeah, four different ones in Tennessee and then Cleveland.
Yeah, how many did you have in Cleveland?
Just one. After the first year in Cleveland, I told my agent I wasn't going back.
So you had 5 head coaches, and then you go to Belichick, the greatest coach of all time. What was the biggest thing where you were like, "Oh, I get why he's this good. This now makes sense." Did you have a moment like that in the first few weeks?
No, I wouldn't say that. I think just overall, I think just being in New England, I think their ability of everybody moving in the same direction on one accord, from Bill to RKK to management to coaching staff to the training room, equipment room, everybody just moves and on one accord. And I think for me, throughout my career leading up to that point, I didn't really know what that looked like. And getting there, being able to see everybody on the same page, it makes a huge difference. And obviously, they've been very successful over the past 2 decades.
Devin, you've had him for 11 years now. Is he having old guy moments yet? See,
no,
calling people by the wrong names or forgetting where he is, none of that stuff?
Well, he's always going to call people by the wrong name and jack people's names up, but not on purpose. But I think one of the greatest things about him is this consistency. You're going to get the same thing out of him. And I've learned that from wins and losses. Like, if we win and we don't play well after the game, like, that's exactly what we're going to hear about. And I played in games where we've played well and the team just outplayed us and got us at on the last play or something like that. And we come in the locker room and he shoots it to you straight. And I think that's what guys like that play for Bill is, that it's going to be the same thing. You know what you're going to get from him. And I think guys really appreciate that.
Jason, when you came in, Devin was one of the leaders of the team. And you're coming in as like the new guy, but it's your brother. Like, how do you navigate that as a teammate and, being respectful for his position on the team, but it's also your brother, the guy you've been talking shit to for your entire life?
I continue to talk the same way to him as I always have. And I think what helped me was I had already had the transition. I spent the first 8 years in Tennessee, then had to transition to Cleveland. So when I got to New England, it was my second time having to do so. And I kind of learned that whole time is, man, you just got to be yourself. And I think when I got to New England, not only there were so many leaders on that team that I was able to just get there, get acclimated and be myself. And I think the one thing that a lot of people in the building appreciated from me was that I was a guy that was going to put Dev in his place when needed to be so. So I think that was a lot of fun, those 3 years of, how siblings are, especially brothers can be. So.
Devin, when Jason told you he was leaving, you probably knew he might be leaving, but What kind of conversation did you have? Did you think it was just going to be like you guys were going to finish your career with the Pats, or did you know there was an end game?
No, I mean, it was funny because even when the year he was in Cleveland after the season, I was like, man, like, you got to get out of there. It's about to be year 10. You can't stick around, and they're rebuilding. Obviously, we've seen what they've done. But I still remember when he told me, like, hey, they're releasing me. I text now his head coach, Brian Flores, and was like, hey, man, they're about to release J-Mac. That'd be a great pickup for us. And I was like, man, should I just hit up Bill? And he was like, yeah. And I remember shooting Bill a text message like, hey, 2 McCourtys are better than 1. And he didn't text me back. So I guess he figured J-Mac wasn't really that good. And then probably about 45 minutes later calls me and tells me that they're trading for him. So, you get 3 great years. And then this year with free agency, just, he could tell you about the process of kind of waiting. And, I think once he got an offer from Miami, and then the Giants, I believe, it was kind of figuring out the best situation from those two teams that he actually had offers from. And that's when we kind of knew it was at the end and it was over with. But we enjoyed every moment of those last 3 years.
Yeah, but Jason, Belichick was just interested because you were a Rutgers guy. It wasn't because that was it. He's got that Rutgers fetish. He just loves the Rutgers guys.
We need more.
Yeah. Flores, they always talk about the Belichick coaching tree, and he is the most Belichick-y kind of coach, I think, out of all these guys that we've had. And even that game you just beat us in on Sunday, that was a classic game. Like in the 2000s, that was a classic Patriots win, right? Where it's like the other team's got, oh man, this should have happened, that shouldn't happen. And you're like, all right, cool, we're 1-0. You can keep talking. But what are the similarities with Belichick and Flores, and how are they different?
It's so hard to compare. I won't kind of go back and forth on both of those guys. I would just say with Flo, he's himself. And I think guys have liked that and got acclimated and have bought into just who he is as a person and who he is as a coach. And I think for me, it's been fun to be a part of this team. Flo brings consistency each and every day of who he is and what his expectations are for us, especially being a young team. And I think every time we step foot in that building, we know what it is, our expectations are, and what the goals are for the day. And guys are attacking that each meeting at a time, each practice, each game. And we're just going to continue that process and see where it puts us at the end of the season.
He's also, there's a calmness to him on the sidelines that I always thought was about. Like when Belichick gets mad on the sidelines, something actually happened. And Flores is the same way, where there's some sort of demeanor to him that I think when I watch, I'm watching 4 football games on a Sunday and you see some of these coaches and they're just frantic and they're going nuts. And you're like, man, that's not what really works. Devin, what's your best Belichick story? Somebody's like, you have 45 seconds to tell me the greatest Belichick story you have. You have to tell me now. What is it?
I don't have I think they've all been told so many times, I feel like, with Bill. But I would say I do remember when I first got there. So obviously you talked about the Rutgers connection, his relationship with my former head coach at Rutgers, who's back there now, Greg Schiano. And they're very different as far as like Coach Schiano he's very emotional. He could get going. He could be yelling at you. And Bill's calm, but within 20 minutes, Bill's is going to feel like he's cursing you out at times just because of how much he curses. And I remember my first meeting, he kind of was like going off and then at the end, he just smiles at me as I'm walking by him. He goes, a little different than being at Rutgers, huh? And I just laugh because, as a rookie, when you come into that building, like, you're like, how can I avoid talking to Bill as much as possible? Like, you don't want to, you know what I mean? It's like the principal.
Yeah.
And when he said that, I was just like, oh, maybe this guy's kind of cool. And then obviously our relationship has grown since then of being here now in my 12th year. But just little things like that, he always kind of surprises you with.
Jason, people consider the Patriots-Rams Super Bowl to be the least entertaining Super Bowl of the 21st century. I loved it. I consider it a defensive classic. What are people missing about that game? Why did that fall flat to the general football fans? What's the biggest thing they're missing?
You're asking the right guy.
Yeah, because that was the so far, that was the best Super Bowl out of all 50 of at that time, 53 of them. That was by far the best one. I tell Patriots fans while I was there the whole time that out of the 6 of them, that was by far the best one. But I think we've become so enamored by we turn the TV on and whether it's Aaron Rodgers or Patrick Mahomes and quarterbacks are just throwing the ball all over the field. And it's just the scores are so high. And I think we take for granted the ability at that point. The Rams were, I think, averaging 35 points a game. The ability to go out there and shut a team down in the Super Bowl. And credit to the Rams defense as well, being able to stop us for the most part, and Brady and Gronk and Edelman. But I think sometimes we take for granted how hard it is, especially in today's NFL, with all of the rules and flags going against the defense, to be able to go out there and execute at that level and be able to perform that way for a full 60 minutes.
Yeah, it was similar to the first Super Bowl we won. I told you I'm on the team. When we beat the Rams, where the Rams came in and they had this offense and they're like, this is what we do. You can't stop it. And then Belichick's like, well, we're going to take away all the things you like to do in this offense, and you're going to have to go to a plan B. And each time with the 2001 Rams and the 2018 or whatever year that was Rams, they kind of didn't know how to go to the plan B. And you guys were like, cool, we're gonna do this. Like, what, in retrospect, Devin, was there a thing they should have done, or were you guys, they just weren't scoring on you that day?
No, I think that's the fun part about being here is each week, as Jay knows from the 3 years he had, we had a new game plan. Like we weren't going to do what we did the week before. And that Super Bowl was really a credit to that because we changed up basically what we did all year. You know, we were probably 98% man-to-man, and I would say in that game, we probably only played 30 to 40% man-to-man in the whole game. And I think that's what was tough. And they did try to do some different things. But I really would say it was a big credit to our front seven. They played so well up front and stopping the run that we were able to do so many different things in the secondary and the things that Bill was thinking that we could do, we were able to execute. I remember talking to him that year, and he said that. He said, when you have a lot of smart, good football players, he said, as a coach, the different things that you come up with that you want to do, sometimes you just don't have the personnel from just a mental standpoint to be able to do all of those things. He said, but when it blends together, that's when you know you have a chance to have a really good defense or good team if it's on the offensive side of the ball as well. So that year was a combination, I think, of just really good coaching, coming up with game plans, and then as players, getting together, sitting down and executing it and knowing what our weaknesses were and what our strengths were. And I think that's what we were able to do in that game.
This year's defense, when Gilmore comes back, I think could get to that level.
Yeah, I think we have good components. We're building a good relationships and communication part. And I think even like in that 18 team, Jay, like he was there early in the season. We weren't that good of a defense. We went down to Jacksonville and got spanked, went to Detroit week 2 and got spanked. It had to continue to progress and get better and better. And I think that's something that, you know, we can look back and say like, hey, that was a lot of hard work that went into that. And we can try to take that mentality into this year.
I mean, the Chiefs game was the game from that postseason. That, holy shit.
Yeah, that shocked a lot of people. And like, we put a lot of work into doing that. And I was a lot of film study, a lot of in practice talking about different things that was happening in practice. Like, we don't like that. We got to change that. And our that defensive coaching staff had no problem communicating with us as players, and all of us kind of being like, let's figure this out together. And I think that's what was so fun about that whole run.
Jason, Mahomes, best quarterback you've ever played against, or is it somebody else?
And he's too young for me to put him right there at the top. I mean, I was in the league going against Peyton Manning and Tom Brady. So it's just, by the time he's done, he's going to be in that conversation. But man, I remember I was earlier in my career. We played in Foxborough, lost to Brady 59-0, and the next week had to go back home and play against the Colts and lost to Peyton Manning. I mean, you talk about a 2-game stretch as a rookie out there, watching those two guys go to work, unbelievable.
What was there anything different about them when you're going against them back to back like that? Did one guy do something that the other guy didn't do and vice versa? Or was it just like they're just reading everything you guys are doing and picking it apart?
I would say the difference and I think Dev can probably speak to this too. When you go against a division opponent, the information and what you put into it because of what you know is so drastically different versus going against an opponent outside the division. So when we came up to go against New England, and then obviously they tore us apart. The game was rain, snow, and the whole nine. But when we got ready to play against Peyton Manning, I mean, the notes and the stuff we got was about this high of all the communication at the line of scrimmage. So for me as a rookie coming in, I'm just like, man, the amount of work that we are putting in to go against a Peyton Manning. But I think it's because you know more. You go against the same team twice a year, every year, whereas New England's in another division. It's every few years. You don't get the same intel, so it's hard to know as much. So I remember early on, me and Dev used to always talk about the comparisons of he got a chance to see Tom every day in practice, and me going against Peyton twice a year. We'd argue about who was the better quarterback, but I think when you're having arguments like that, it becomes pointless after a while when the two guys are that good.
Well, you know who won the argument? Brady. He's still playing. Manning's a broadcaster. Brady went 5 years past him. Who do you have, Devin? Who's the best quarterback you ever played against, or are you still waiting?
Not for me, it's Tom. I mean, obviously I haven't played him in a game, but in practice every day, going against him, his competitiveness each day in practice, that obviously made us better as a defense. And that was a part of, I think, even at the end of seasons, us being better was, with Bill, you're going to go over D in practice. We're not going to start the season and just go scout team. We're going to continue to get the work of good on good. So, seeing Tom every day in practice, it was tough because he does whatever it takes to win. It's not always going to be 500 yards passing. It can be, but it could be something totally different. But he's going to get the team and the offense in the best situation to have a bunch of positive plays and then ultimately try to win the game.
Jason, you came into the Brady Patriots run pretty late. Did you ever think he would leave? Because you don't have any of that. Like Devin has this whole backstory. He's been playing with them like half of Brady's career. When you were there, did it seem like a reasonable scenario that he was going to go?
I think for me, when I saw the Indianapolis Colts cut Peyton Manning and he has a statue at their stadium,
all bets are off.
You'd be crazy to think that a guy is determined to finish his career in one place. It's just our league. And I think nobody at the time sat there and was just like, oh yeah, Brady will be gone in a year or two. I don't think you can envision it when you've had that level of success for that long. But in reality, any of those guys, Dev, Hightower, they've played there a long time, but it's not a guarantee that because you play a place a long time, you'll retire there. And obviously for Brady, it's hard to argue and say it wasn't the right decision as he hoisted his 7th Super Bowl trophy last year.
He actually looks better than he has in the last couple of years. I was really impressed in that Dallas game. Best receiver you guys have ever gone against?
I always say the quarterback dictates it. And I think I say that because I played against Andre Johnson in the division in Houston, who was a monster, but didn't always have the quarterback to get him the ball. I would just say just strictly physically, Calvin Johnson was unbelievable. I mean, you'd have him covered. He'd run an in cut. You'd beat him out the break, and you turn back to look for the ball, and it looks like it's 7 feet high, and you turn back over your shoulder, and he's up in the air grabbing it out the sky. So he was just unbelievable just to try to match his speed and physicality play in and play out.
Yeah, my toughest matchup was just when I was playing corner. I was going against Brandon Marshall. He was in Miami. Then he went to the Jets, and you would have to fight and claw with this guy outside. He'd drop his head and bull rush you, then throw you for a release. So it was always a struggle for me, especially as a young player, trying to go against Brandon Marshall. The 2 times a year we were playing when he was in Miami and in New York on the Jets.
That's interesting. I would have guessed Tyreek Hill just because if you make any sort of mistake, it's a 75-yard touchdown. But it's the more physical guys who are the...
I would say it's just there's not many times with Tyreek Hill's speed. When you watch him, there's not many times people are covering him without somebody over the top. So it's a different ball game. I would say opposed to when you're out there and you're going against a guy one-on-one for an entire game of just the whole everything that goes into it.